options, japtions, adaptions. God, I'm so good at rhyming. Oh. Do you want to go to Norman, Oklahoma with me?
Yeah, what are you gonna do?
Sing about. Might f around and make a record.
I loved this dive into making an independent record. My friend is an independent artist and I get little snippets, but this felt like I was actually invited on the journey. We got the road trip there, we got some backstory, we got to be in the studio, and it was unpretentious but informative. It was easy, it was playful, and it made me definitely want to listen to his music because I felt like we had an experience together. Um, it was really intimate to be invited into the process, into the studio time, into his ideology in a way that was honest but not precious or preachy. And there was this nice irreverence and humor throughout, and some quick editing and some behind the scenes stuff that made it not too sleek. There's still something like a little bit intentionally raw about it. Um, yeah, it was just really well curated and had an organic flow to the piece as well.
I thought it was an interesting reflection of the creative process, especially at this scale. I personally have had some experience around major label music industry dynamics and creative processes, and I thought that there was a lot of really salient and interesting commentary from I'm sorry, I'm forgetting his name, from our lead subject about the dynamics between making art for yourself, having to make it for a large audience, having to try to function within a capitalist system. It's quite difficult and not simple. And I think the piece does a good job of showing that most artists are like the artist present here, someone who's living like an artist and someone who is working hard to maintain his lifestyle just off of his art, which is not easy to do. So I thought the piece was very easy to get into, both on an emotional level, and I thought it, and in a sort of not just a logical level, but sort of a way to help someone who does not necessarily know how to navigate the industry themselves or how to become a professional artist themselves, giving them a very grounded template.
I loved the self-documentary aspect of it. I felt like it was a very well done vlog. That's kind of what it felt like. So it felt very personal. It felt very inclusive. And it felt like I was really getting the inside scoop of his life and his process through his passion. So I really enjoyed that. The overarching theme of music being a collaborative effort and how, with a crew that you trust and people you can collaborate with who are of like mind and of the same type of positivity, it makes your job way better. And I really loved that perspective and the reality of it. It was just an overall very positive documentary. And I truly loved that because, with a career in the arts, it gets very discouraging at times. It's very hard to break in, and you only really see the people who are completely at the top sometimes. So then you're just kind of like, if I'm not at the top, then what am I doing? So I really liked the perspective of just acknowledging that being an independent artist is hard and that it's okay to have a smaller career and be happy with it as long as you're happy with the material that you're presenting. Because at the end of the day, you need to be proud of your work and being satisfied with the fact that it might not reach 1 million people. It might not even reach thousands of people. But if the amount of people that it does reach, if it means something to them and it means something to you, then it makes it all worth it.
I think this guy has a great sense of humor, which actually helped throughout in the script. Nice way to break up, the documentary. Great use of black and white. I like it when that's kind of thrown in there to break things up as well. I wrote down capture moment in time, trust in the process. So I think it's about being in the moment, easing up on yourself. Don't be so hard on yourself. And I wrote down a quote that he said, "It's okay to have a small career. You just have to keep sharing your story because you never know who might need to hear it." I think that was a beautifully said quote. there. Very well said. It really captures art. Just keep going, because you just never know who might need to see that day or hear about it, hear the music. There's a lot, especially with music, there's a lot of memories I've attached to music. So if I hear something, it reminds me of a moment in my life that really means a lot to me in one way or another. I think it's kind of cool. And especially with, any kind of art at all, I really believe that it's okay. And even honestly, not even just art, with any profession, whatever you're doing, be in the moment. Don't worry about how big of a difference you think you're making in the whole world. You may just be making a difference in one person's world, which means the world to them. So really, really well put together documentary, fun to watch.
Seizing the moment and the opportunity, and in times of burnout and losing faith, this is a moment of restoration, a reboot, an opportunity to explore things you haven't necessarily explored before, and realizing that your voice has an impact and it matters. We see this musician go on this journey and decide in the pandemic he's going to create an album, and we get to see what the process is like of the upcomings of how this inevitably all comes together. And it goes to show that, you should just enjoy making the experience versus trying to be so focused in being someone who is big or famous, that it should be more fulfilling for you to create music and to be able to tell a story more for yourself. And if people resonate, then people resonate. And I think that is a really good reminder for us to have. And there's such a emotional connection that we have to music, and I think we get to see that through not this musician, but the people connected with him as well.
And I love this because it really showcased how much work, how much effort, how much variation, how much thought, how much care goes into the actual recording part of the process. And also showed that, like, I think that the idea is that, like, oh, you write a song and, like, that's the end of it. Like, that song's not done. Like, you can still change it. You can still, finesse it. There's still so many different aspects of it that you can mess around and play with to get the final product that you want. And also that, like, an album is so much more than just, like, a group of songs that happen to be on a recording together. It's, artists whittling down from a bunch of different songs into the ones that they feel the best about, that work together, that, represent something. So I really love this because it just showed all of the kind of background stuff that I think people don't really think about, of how much time and effort. And this was all after the songs were already written. This was, when he was ready for the recording step of the process and had, songs to pick from, to whittle down. And so I really, really enjoyed this. I thought it was really interesting and intriguing to learn.
It was very interesting watching the producing, watching the behind the scenes on how a lot of these songs are produced. And it was very interesting hearing about kind of the inner workings, the thoughts, the insecurities that come into creating art, especially when it comes from a musical standpoint, where there's that expectation to be noticed, and that fear that if you're not noticed, then that's a testament of your work. And one of the biggest things that was addressed that clicked with me was the aspect of COVID and lockdown forcing you to take a break. Honestly, that statement there is one of the reasons I've always had such conflicting feelings towards COVID, because on one hand, it took so much time away, but on the other hand, it forced you to sit down because you had nothing but time.